Donald Trump's executive order shutting off government funding for a whole host of programs that impact all Americans is on a very brief hold thanks to a last-minute order from a federal judge. But the order has already detonated and caused a whole bunch of chaos and anxiety. In Connecticut, programs like Head Start, which provides childcare and early education for kids of low-income families and allows parents to not have to choose between working and watching their kids, saw its reimbursement system shut down today. Senator Chris Murphy called out the Trump administration for claiming that cuts would not impact programs that provide assistance to individuals, saying, quote, "Don't believe these people. In Connecticut, the Head Start reimbursement system is shut down. Preschools cannot pay staff and will need to start laying off staff very soon and sending little kids home." Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator, tell me first what the sort of lived reality is for folks in your state and what you're hearing is happening.
There's panic in Connecticut. As you have reported all day, Medicaid stopped being accessible to make payments to doctors and hospitals today. Head Start couldn't access their payment programmings and started making plans to lay off staff and send children home. They're still making those plans because, as you also mentioned, the order from the court is only good for a few days. The funding for emergency disaster relief has been suspended. It appears that money going to our elementary schools to help pay for books and teachers has been suspended. Literally, the lifeblood of our communities, the programs that keep us alive, that educate our kids, that protect our neighborhoods, all disappeared overnight. And why? Why? The answer is simple. Donald Trump is seizing power. He is seizing power. And what an autocrat does is put himself and only himself in charge of doling out money so that he can give that money to his friends and to his loyalists. And so he can deny that money to people that are not loyal to him. And that is what Donald Trump is preparing to do. Now, tonight, he didn't get away with it for more than a handful of hours, but it doesn't mean that those recipients of dollars, those schools, those hospitals, those Head Start centers won't wake up tomorrow morning still in chaos, not knowing whether they are going to, by the end of next week, still be able to employ people and provide those services. He's not doing it to try to make government more efficient. He is doing it to be able to perpetuate a fundamental corruption. Donald Trump rewarding his friends and his billionaires' friends' companies and punishing Democrats and states that don't line up and pledge loyalty to him.
Senator, the illegality of it has an echo to the incompetence of the first Trump presidency. And I wonder how you factor in everything you talked about, along with sort of a quintessential feature of Trumpian politics, which is the clunkiness and the incompetence of it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more thought being put into this assault on democracy than in the first term. A lot of us warned that Trump was going to be much more effective and efficient in destroying democracy this time than the first time, in part because there are no adults who believe in the rule of law surrounding him at the White House. You have to sort of view the last week as part of one very planned out attack on our democracy, a very planned out assault on the rule of law. The immunization of political violence, the firing of all the inspectors general who try to root out corruption inside of these agencies, and now the seizure of federal programs. It's all designed to allow Trump to get away with corruption, to allow him to basically turn our government into an enrichment machine for himself and his friends. None of it is accidental. Some of it looks ham-handed. But who knows? Maybe this case makes its way to the Supreme Court very shortly, and Trump's hand-picked judges, many of them, at least one of them, proven to be deeply corrupt, allows him to get away with it.
You're right in that these were the warnings made by President Joe Biden, by Vice President Kamala Harris, folks like yourself, a whole bunch of people in the media, and Trump was elected. It doesn't mean that the country wanted this, but this is what the country's going to get. The Democrats seemed, President Kamala excluded. You've seemed to have clarity and sort of political vigor every day since the election, but a lot of your fellow Democrats have not. They seemed awakened to the reality of the implementation of an abandoning of a democracy and an operationalizing of not just Project 2025, but a corrupt autocracy. What are the conversations going on behind the scenes with your Democratic colleagues about how to respond?
Well, listen, our response has to be three-pronged. It has to happen immediately, and it has to be vigorous, because this is a turning point for the country. And again, it's not just that we're preserving democracy, it's that we're fighting corruption. We're fighting corruption. Donald Trump wants to take over the government so he can steal from you. Right? What's part of the rationale that he's cutting off funds for schools and hospitals so that he can hoard that money? Instead of spending it on you, he can hand it to his billionaire friends. We're fighting corruption here. The three-pronged strategy is this. We got to make their life miserable here in the Senate. Today, we denied them a debate on one of their priority bills. Tomorrow morning, we'll take a vote on their nominee to be the administrator of the EPA. I hope that my colleagues vote against that nomination. Whether or not you think that Lee Zeldin is qualified or not, he is going to go to the EPA to administer a deeply corrupt and immoral policy. All of the grants, notwithstanding tonight's judicial order at the EPA, are frozen so that Trump can hand them out to his friends and deny them to his enemies. We need a public relations strategy. Yes, I have been very vocal. I have been visibly angry for weeks. Hopefully more of my colleagues will present that kind of engagement. And then we have to keep it up in the courts, sue to block these illegal orders, and hope that some of them withstand appellate scrutiny.
What do you think his legal strategy is? Is it to suss out the judges that are going to block his steamrolling of democracy, or is it to bump all the cases up to the Supreme Court? What do you think he's trying to do?
Well, or is it to ultimately pick a fight with the judiciary? Will he actually comply with these executive orders? Remember, J.D. Vance said a few years ago, here's the plan. We seize control, we put all our people in, we rig the rules, and then when a court tells us we can't do it, we ignore the court and dare them to enforce it. That might be the plan here. J.D. Vance spelled it out. That's the final corruption of democracy. If the executive branch just says to the courts, we don't care what you say, we're doing it anyway. We control the army and law enforcement, and so nobody can make us. We haven't gotten to that moment yet. I am hopeful that Donald Trump observes this court order tonight and any subsequent court orders. But you better be ready, because Donald Trump's team has made it clear that they don't have much respect for Congress and they don't have much respect for the court system.